we're Sarah and Catherine, two Canadian labor and delivery nurses. And between us, we've supported over 4,500 births. Cutting through fear and misinformation, we give you honest guidance from the people who do this work every single day.
Welcome, Tara. And we're really excited to have you on the podcast today. Can we start out with you telling us a little bit about yourself and what is very unique about you?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for having me. My name is Tara. I am 34 years old, living in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And when I was 32 and had a almost 2-year-old, my husband and I decided to expand our family, try to have one more baby. And instead of one baby, we got the shock of a lifetime when we found out at our first ultrasound that I was pregnant spontaneously with 4 spontaneous quadruplets. So I kind of knew this pregnancy was a little bit different than my singleton. As I mentioned, I had a daughter previously, and it was just immediately as soon as I got that positive pregnancy test, which actually was a positive pregnancy test even several days before my missed period, which was probably another sign that that was multiples. I was so much more tired, so much more sick, so much more nauseous, just felt terrible, was showing so much quicker already. And in the back of my head, I was like, maybe twins. And also just chalked it up to being a working mom, having an almost 2-year-old at the time, and figured this is probably how everyone feels in their second pregnancy, and kind of brushed it off and went on, the next 4 or 5 weeks waiting for my first ultrasound around that 8.5 week mark, where my husband and I were there. And very quickly, the sonographer had put the wand right on my belly and the screen was on right away. I hadn't had any history of losses or any reason to believe that, this pregnancy wasn't viable at that point. So the screen was on right away. The wand was on my belly right away. And within the first 30 seconds of the appointment and being in there, I could see immediately multiple sacs on the screen and multiple inside,
Okay.
multiple. And I saw it. I mean, I am also a high school biology teacher. I had a pregnancy before and had many ultrasounds. So I knew a little bit about what I was looking at, but of course was waiting for confirmation from the ultrasound tech and wasn't getting any information. Turns out she was as stunned and shocked as I was, and she was just staying composed and trying to get all the measurements and make sure it was 4 viable babies that it ended up being. And for the first 5 minutes or so, the room was silent. Kind of kept looking back and forth at my husband, and I didn't say anything, and she didn't say anything, and my husband didn't say anything, and we jumbling and we're holding hands, and I'm just shaking. And then eventually I break the silence after, at this point, she's made measurements, and I'm seeing weeks, and I'm seeing A, B, C, D pop up on the screen. And I say, okay, I'm so sorry, but could you just tell me what looking at? And she said, yeah, I'll confirm everything at the end. There is 3, possibly 4 fetuses, and that's all I can say so far. And that was it. So I start crying. I start shaking. I think I probably just said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, 100 times. Just went back and forth between being totally shocked. We really didn't say much. She really didn't say much. It was a long appointment, nearly 45 to 60 minutes. It took a long time to measure all those babies and to get everything she needed. And then at the end, I really it was just over. And I actually didn't even have a doctor come and talk to me afterwards, that one that kind of confirms all of the scans and pictures. Nothing, just kind of, okay, your family doctor will get back to you, or your OB, or I got
wonder
nothing.
if that was, I wonder if that was their first time with 4 as well.
It was. I have actually since spoken to that ultrasound tech. She's followed me on social media, and many of the people in the clinic have. And we have friends in common and mutual friends in common. And we've spoken a little bit since, and it was incredibly shocking for her. No one else in the clinic had ever seen quadruplets either.
Exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah. Totally. And then we're just sent out into the world. And with this information, you just kind of have to wait. And that was a really big surprise, because I called my doctor right away because she wasn't going to get the results immediately, or it would take a couple hours, and I couldn't wait. And I just was like, okay, so this happened, and now what? And I thought that a lot would happen really quickly in terms of more appointments and more ultrasounds and more information. And it was actually a lot of waiting. I did eventually get a referral to a new referral from my OB and further ultrasounds and everything, but it took weeks before I even saw my OB in person. It's progressing just like a regular singleton pregnancy. I just had to wait for my next appointment like everyone else would have.
These are spontaneous
Mhm.
quadruplets.
Yes.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah, so because they're so rare and because most higher order multiple pregnancies do come as a result of some sort of fertility assistance, the actual stats are hard to collect. Even my OB doesn't even have exact stats. Google will tell you that quadruplet pregnancies happen in about 1 in 700,000 pregnancies. But of that 1 in 700,000, about 90% come from some sort of fertility assistance. So that kind of extrapolates to being about 1 in 60 million chance. And it also depends on the level of, are there any identical sets of twins in there or identical triplets plus a singleton? Is it four fraternals? Is it some identical, it's all, the combinations are so endless and it's so rare that there isn't an exact stat, but just, yeah, exceedingly rare.
Wow. Do you have twins in the family?
That's a great question. So
Yeah.
I actually have no twins. We have no twins on either side of our family, absolutely none. Although it was a spontaneous pregnancy, I was only 31 when I got pregnant. So not even of advanced maternal age where women are sometimes more prone to hyperovulate. There was no reason to believe that I was going to ever become pregnant with multiples, especially fraternal multiples, which I had. I have four fraternal multiples. I have two girls and two boys. And so when I answer that question, I say, yes, there's no history of twins in the family. However, there is a set of quadruplets in my family. So the last set of quadruplets to have been born prior to mine was 8 years prior in Alberta. And it is the quadruplets born by Beth and Tim Webb up in Hythe, Alberta. And they were born in 2016. And they also had a set of spontaneous identical quadruplets. And Beth, the mom, is related to my dad via second cousin, blah, 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 down the line. So we're related on my dad's side via my grandmother. And hers were also spontaneous identical. She has four beautiful 9-year-old daughters now, identical daughters. And I have four fraternal quadruplets. And we were the two most recent sets born in Alberta in an 8-year period of time. And since mine were born a year and a half ago, there was another set born last month here in Edmonton as well with another mom up in northern Alberta too.
I'm curious, how was the nausea?
Very bad. Yeah, I was so sick all day long. I had a really hard time. Yeah,
The
so much
whole
more.
pregnancy or just first trimester?
Honestly, the whole pregnancy, because as I got so big so quickly, I was measuring about 55 weeks pregnant at 33 weeks. So I was measuring between 10 to 15 weeks ahead the whole time, especially by about week 10, I was measuring that much further ahead. So by the time that my kind of morning sickness and the nausea kind of went down, my overall stomach had expanded so much, my uterus and everything was so big that everything was so uncomfortable and my heartburn was so bad and my discomfort and stomach pain. It was so bad that even though the morning sickness went down, everything else went up.
Did you have to wear any special belts or use KT tape to help support your abdomen, or what did you do for comfort?
Good question. So I definitely wore a ton of compression under clothing garments or leggings or spent like shorts and stuff. I was really heavily pregnant in the late spring and early summer. My babies were born on July 8th, 2024. So when I was really pregnant, it was really hot. And so big baggy t-shirts, high waisted shorts and compression pants and shorts were really helpful. I didn't really like belly bands because I already felt so uncomfortable and tight that it actually kind of made it worse. And I kind of just wanted everything loose. I didn't like K-tape. I was so itchy that I didn't want anything extra else on my skin either. So no, nothing specific other than just regular pregnancy or maternity clothing. Okay, so one thing that came kind of as a shock, and I am happy to talk about along the way, was how quickly the conversations about selective reduction came into the mix. Essentially, as soon as I had my first ultrasound, that confirmation ultrasound around that 8.5 week mark, my OB, my family doctor, and every maternal fetal medicine doctor that I saw afterwards, selective fetal reduction kept coming up for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was a term that I had never heard of before. And I Googled and then cried and sobbed and just had this incredibly visceral response over, because I was like, this was a wanted pregnancy and I wanted to get pregnant and have another baby and expand my family. And all of a sudden, all these doctors are telling me that the safest thing to do in this situation, risk wise, is to reduce the pregnancy. So, what that means is they recommended that I reduce the pregnancy to twins or a singleton. So, um, I also learned later that there wouldn't really be much like choosing or selecting of the most viable pregnancy or fetus, I should say. And it was kind of random in terms of where the needle and the procedure could be done in the best placement so as to, yeah, kind of maintain some viability with some of the fetuses or one of the fetuses and also reduce the others. And so that was something that kind of really clouded the first several months of my pregnancy, because as I'm just still waiting for viability and to get to that point of 23, 24 weeks, that conversation just kept coming back to me. And I had to really, it just really challenged all my values and my faith and what I wanted and what I understood. And as a biology teacher and understanding science and trusting medicine and trusting doctors, that put me in such a conflicting position of wondering what to do. And I just felt like I just felt like there was no decision that I needed to make until there was more information that revealed that needed to be done. And perfectly well, I had additional fetal echocardiograms and they all looked great with their hearts and their development. So that was a really surprising conversation that I had to keep coming back to. And when I finally said, you need to stop asking me, I am not reducing, that just took this huge weight off of my shoulders that I didn't realize I had been carrying. And I actually really got to enjoy the rest of my pregnancy afterwards when I was able to put that aside and just enjoy my babies and my pregnancy as much as I could through the discomfort. And that was something that higher order multiples, any woman pregnant with triplets, quadruplets, quintuplets, that's going to come into pregnancy for higher order multiples and I didn't expect that. And so stats would tell you, medicine would tell you that the greatest chance of survival for any is to reduce some. And it was just something I never ended up doing. And today I have 4 perfectly healthy, incredible 19-month-old toddlers. And
thank you so much for sharing that. Like, it's so important for us as women and any human really to stay aligned with who they are and what they stand for and what is right for them. And so with you listening to, I'm not comfortable with this, let's just look at this rationally and just going with your gut, that's huge.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah, B and C moved around a lot, and I did only go to assessment and induction one single time during my pregnancy, because at one point I just wasn't sure. You know, you're told to be doing all these kick counts near the end and checking for fetal movements, and it's really hard when there's 4 babies and there's eight legs and 8 arms and 4 heads, and you don't really know what you're feeling. But I really didn't feel baby B or baby C at the time. I just couldn't find one of them for a good day. And I knew enough to just, listen to your gut and to just go. And I had enough nurses and had tell me that it's not a waste of time and no one thinks you're silly or wasting time. It's never.
We like when you come in for decreased fetal movement.
Of course. So I went and I had the most wonderful team of 3 nurses who spent hours trying to do a
holding the
non-stress
monitors.
test. Yes. And the OB on call that day wanted a 1-hour non-stress test, and we couldn't even get 1 minute of perfect. Like, it was unbelievable. They tried for hours and they were so patient and it was so fun. Arms, and it was just crazy. So I could almost always tell who was who throughout my pregnancy. And they all had their own position, especially by the end, there wasn't any room to move around.
Right. So did you only go into triage, did you say, that one time?
Just the one time. Yeah.
Is that right? Oh, no threatened preterm labor, no cramping?
None. I had wicked Braxton Hicks, but fortunately I had also had them with my singleton before. So I knew that it wasn't true contractions. It was never true labor. I never had any dilation. My cervix, no shortening of my cervix, like everything. They were in there till the end, and there was no sign of them coming out. I evicted them. I wanted them. I actually got them out earlier than my original C-section date because I was so done by the end.
Yeah,
and
I bet. I
It
bet.
was, yeah, no signs of labor. They were very happy in there.
So,
Wow.
what was the recommendation? How many weeks was the recommendation for the C-section, and then how many weeks were they when they were born?
Okay, so I was told over and over and over again that 90% of quadruplets are born before 29 weeks, and to expect them to come 29 weeks or earlier. And of course, the later, the better. And so I got to that 29-week mark and I was like, oh, okay. And they're still in here. Okay, we're still doing this. And at that point, that's when my OB kind of was like, okay, you got to where we thought you would never even really get to. Let's plan your C-section. And so we planned it for 34 and 2. And at 32 and 2, I was in his office sobbing because I was like, I cannot do 2 more weeks of this. I can't even do 2 more days. Like, this is
Yes, yes.
crazy. But
Did
at
you
that
feel like you
point,
were going to explode?
I did. And I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get up. My feet were so swollen. I was having
Yeah.
difficulty like I could, it was getting so hard by 32 and a half weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, just in despair, thinking 2 more weeks of this and the heat of summer with a 2-year-old. And it was just like so crazy. And he was like at that point, because I had been pretty confident and I was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing so good. And then I get to that point and I'm like, I'm not doing this, I'm not
Yeah.
doing good.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
kind of surprised. He's like, wait, you're fine. You can do this. And I was like, no, I can't. Give me
Mhm.
the steroids. Let's get these babies ready to come out. And we ended up moving the C-section up and I delivered at 33 and 2.
33 and 2. Amazing. Great
Wow.
gestation to get to.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And how big were the babies?
All of them were between 4.5 and 5 pounds. So they were 4'7", 4'8", 4'15", 4'15".
Do you want to share about the NICU?
Sure, absolutely. That was obviously a part of this experience I knew I was going to have, having preemies and higher order multiples. I knew I would be in the NICU for some period of time. I didn't know what to expect or what that would look like. I had the most incredible NICU experience, really, in the grand scheme of things. We had essentially healthy feeder grower babies that other than a little bit of jaundice at the beginning, because my husband and I had incompatible blood types, and I'm O negative and he's A positive, and blah, blah, blah. They had pretty severe jaundice, 3 of the 4, and needed the Billy lights for a few days. Other than that, it was really just working on feeding and growing. One of my children did have a little bit of a tiny cardio event that was thankfully captured on the monitors, and we were able to get referred into a cardiologist, and he was tracked over the next year as well with the team at the Stollery here in Edmonton, and he's since been cleared and has a perfectly clean bill of health since. But
Nice.
yeah, the NICU was amazing. We spent 2 days at the Royal Alex Hospital here in Edmonton, and then they were discharged and moved to a lower NICU at the Misericordia here in Edmonton, and
Like
they
a
actually
level
were
2. Yeah.
yeah, they were discharged even before me because they were too healthy for that unit. So they
Wow.
needed the beds. So I'm up there walking around the nurse's desk being like, hello, my babies are gone. Can I go? Like, let's get me out of
Yeah.
here. And so they moved us there and we spent 21 days total there. And we had the most incredible space. It was incredible nurses, incredible, neonatologists and doctors, and yeah, it was wonderful. I had a really blessed, privileged NICU experience, which is one that I know a lot of women, a lot of families don't always have when going to the NICU. It can be scary and it
Yeah.
is hard. You're learning what all the monitors and all the beeps and all the cords and all of the, assessments always mean. And it wasn't perfect. There's some bumps, but ultimately, I knew they were in the best place with the best care team. And I knew that that was absolutely the best place for them to start out. And it gave us so much confidence to figure out how we were even going to navigate this and get a grip on feeding and taking care of them and getting on a schedule. So I'm really grateful for our experience at the NICU. It was wonderful.
Did
So
you
they,
get to walk through? Oh, sorry, Sarah. Did you get to do a walkthrough of the NICU ahead of time? Were you prepared about the surroundings?
I did not get a walkthrough of the NICU ahead of time, but I did have so many people tell me that if I had the opportunity to move them to the MIS, to move them to the MIS, and I still recommend it for anyone who can. It was also 5 minutes away from my house, which meant caring for my
Nice.
2-year-old at home so much easier. That hospital is very well set up for families, and it was amazing to be able to go back and forth. And we had 2 adjoining rooms with all 4 babies in the 2 rooms, and we got to go back and forth. Lots of space. It was bright. It's new. I think it's been renovated or in the last 5 or 7 years. It's really bright and shiny and fancy and gorgeous and really set up well.
And so in
Wow.
total, they were only in the NICU, all 4 of them, for 3 weeks. Nobody
Correct.
had to stay longer?
They were out at 36 and 2. Yeah, nobody had to stay longer. They did not rush me out until the last day. I
Yeah,
think they also could have been home a couple days sooner. I
yeah.
just wasn't in a huge hurry. They kept telling me to prepare to get them out around their due date. So I was like, "Oh, we've
Okay.
still got like 6 weeks once they were born." And then
Oh, yeah.
around the 3-week mark, um, so we're at about 36 weeks gestation. We're at about 3 weeks since they had been born. They're like, "Okay, by the way, so you're going home soon." And I was like, "What?" I thought we had a couple more weeks. And
Oh
by
my
then
gosh.
they're taking all their oral feeds like champs, and they're sleeping well and they're growing well, and they're like, "Yeah, you're ready to go home." And I was completely shocked. The morning that we found out they were going home, they just finished rounds, and then they turned and said, "Okay, you're going home today." And I was like, "What?" Like, I thought that
I'm
conversation was about,
outnumbered.
yeah, it was crazy. So literally we ran home, grabbed the car seats. We didn't have anything ready. Like, we had things ready, but not ready. Like, we didn't know they were coming home that day. It ended up they came home on my husband's birthday. So that was a big shock, a
Aw,
big surprise. Yeah.
Oh.
pretty special
So
too, though, hey?
Yeah.
how do you set up your team for quadruplets at home, and what does that look
Yeah,
like?
I knew that we weren't gonna have as much of the direct, like, parent support. My husband's parents, his like, their age and their health, they weren't able to help us in that way. They've been able to help us in other ways, but that like, helping with the babies and being there, changing diapers and feeding and doing all the things and being there in the middle of the night, that was not gonna be them. My mom passed away 2 weeks after the birth of my first daughter. She
Oh,
actually never even got to meet Emmy, and it was a huge, big, really terribly tragic, sudden, unexpected loss. And I didn't have my mom, and my dad and stepmom weren't in a position to be able to help us too. So we knew we weren't going to have like our parents or the grandparents that, you think of when you have a village.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made me realize that a village doesn't have to be your direct family. It doesn't have to be your blood relatives. I just
No.
didn't have a lot of those. And I was going to
mhm.
need a village. So what I started to lean into was, all the people who are offering help and saying things like, "Let me know if you need anything," or "Wow, let me know if I can bring you a meal," or whatever. I had that offered to me as well before with my first baby. And I've had that in other periods of my life. And you never really take them up on it because it feels awkward to ask, and it feels awkward to be like, "Sure, actually, I would like a meal. And could you drop it off on Tuesday
Yeah.
at 5 p.m.?" Like, that feels in truth, like, it feels, I don't know, awkward and
Yeah,
icky. We're just, as a society, we're built to think, and as moms, we're built to think that we have to do it all on our own. And if we ask for help, it's like you're weak and you're not doing it right. And it just felt really weird. But I started to lean into the idea that the people who are offering all of this, whether they're strangers, like friends of friends, I mean, not total strangers, but friends of friends, or people that I hadn't even really met, or,
Mm-hmm.
acquaintances and neighbors that I have known in my neighborhood for a while, but I have never actually even had in my home before, are saying, "Hey, let me know if I can help." They mean it when they say that, and they wouldn't be offering it if they didn't mean it. And so I decided that I was just going to start taking everybody up on their offer, even if I didn't know what I was going to get them to do yet for help. And I started saying, "Yes, come over on this day," or "Here's this." And so I yeah, started accepting a lot of help, and I never turned any down because I realized really quickly, I shouldn't say I never turned any down. I did turn 1 or 2 people down, and then they never offered again. And that's when I realized, "Oh, you have to say, 'Yes, I need your help,' or else the help
yeah,
goes away. It
Right.
disappears."
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
So I've never actually since then turned it down since. And it turned into, well, how do I organize and schedule this help? Because people kept showing up. The people that I kept accepting help of were here and helping and walking in the
Mm-hmm.
door. And I needed a way to organize that and schedule it. So my sister-in-law created a Google spreadsheet, and it just had times and dates on a calendar, and people got the link, and they were editors, and they just put their name on, and they signed up, whether it was for 2 hours at a time once a week, or 2 hours at a time twice a week, or 4 hours at a time once a month, whatever it looked like, or they could fit in their schedule. The best part was it was around their schedule, it was around their time. They were there. It wasn't me scrambling to text someone at 3 a.m. being like,
Right.
could you be here 10 minutes ago? Because I actually am struggling right now and I need you right
Yes.
here. That
Yes.
doesn't
Yeah.
work. So it was great. And I could always pull up my phone and look at the schedule and be like, "Okay, I'm alone right now for the next few hours, but at 7 a.m., someone's going to walk in my
Right.
door." And
That's
that gave me so much
fantastic.
peace.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Every
That
woman should
is.
do that. Hey,
I
not just
know.
pods, every single
mom should accept the help.
I feel so strongly about that because even with my singleton, I had people offer to help. And, I might not have needed it as intensely or as often or for as long as I would have with my singleton as I did with my quads.
Mhm.
But I could have used a lot more help with my
So
singleton.
they're
Yes.
18 months old.
Yes.
Are people still helping you?
Oh my gosh.
I
Yes.
would think I would need it for the next
Yes.
18 years.
I would say actually the easiest part in the last year and a half has been months like 9, 10, 11, when they were happy sitters and they were sleeping well and they were, pretty content, easy babies, not a bunch of teething, not yeah, I remember being like, "Oh, I don't need as much help right now." And then they hit 1 and they started walking and the toddler like
Mhm.
and then it got so hard again and it's still so hard right now and I don't actually
Yeah.
foresee it getting much easier for a long time. So, yes, I still have help showing up. I still need help. I have help walking in the door all the time. I still use the same Google spreadsheet to track
Oh,
my
good.
help. However, it's dropped down the intensity and the frequency I need because I also have hired a live-in au pair, essentially a nanny. So I
Yeah.
have I have our live-in au pair. She moved in about 6 months ago and she's here for about a year, maybe a little bit longer. And that's given me so much extra help. It's like having another co-parent in your home that
It's
knows your
wonderful.
home and
Yeah.
knows your routines. And she helps me with everything from house and groceries and cooking and cleaning and right in the thick of it with childcare. So yeah, that's made my like other village help schedule decrease because she found a lot, but she can't work every day all the time with me. So I do have other help still continuing to walk in the door because yeah, I'm very outnumbered and it's still very hard. Hard in a different
Mhm.
way.
Mhm. So we were thinking too, um, what what do you do for you? Like you're
Yeah.
probably really busy.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I am very busy right now. I used to think I was busy and now I am busy. um, I am about 3 weeks back into full-time teaching. So I went back to my job at the end of January here. I have a continuous contract at a wonderful school 5 minutes away from my home. It's at a school that I've taught at my entire 11 years of my career. I get to teach what I want to teach. I work with wonderful colleagues. I really get a lot out of my job as a professional and as a person. It really is important to me. I also need it to support and fund my entire life. Having 5 kids in this economy is not cheap.
Yeah.
So I need
Right.
to work to pay the bills and I need my pension and my benefits. So going back to work was, I knew I was going to need to. And I'm lucky that I have a job that I love and I had job protection to return to. But I will say it's so hard. It's so much harder juggling full time work and juggling my life and childcare and everything else. And juggling a little bit of life on social media and what I'm doing there and just meeting the demands of a busy household and it's just so hard. So I'm struggling with that. I think I need to set some better boundaries on time and sleep and just taking care of myself a little bit more. The saying is silly, but it's true. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I can tell I'm
Mhm.
getting pretty tired right now. So I've got to find some ways to build in that self care and to make sure I'm taking care of myself too. And I will. I know I will. I have a great support team and I see a therapist regularly and I'm a talker and I have great friends in a village and people who keep coming in and helping. So I know I'll
Yeah.
be okay, but you're right. It is hard and I do have to take care of myself. So my C-section 33 and 2, it was scheduled. I had, the amazing privilege of, having it planned and knowing exactly when it was going to be. It was very different than my first delivery. My first delivery was a vaginal delivery that came at the end of a very long induction. So, um, I knew I was going to have a C-section for this one. It's the safest way to deliver higher order multiples in terms of fetal monitoring and making sure they're delivered and their placentas and everything comes out safely. So I knew from the start I was going to have a C-section. Some people ask me, they have the audacity to be like, did you ever consider to have them vaginally? And I'm like, I actually just considered to have them alive. So no, that wasn't ever on my radar.
Yeah.
So yeah. So no, I had a C-section and it was like the second I walked in, they had been planning it for months. And I actually
Mm.
have a friend who's a nurse at the Royal Alec as well. And she had been telling me all the ways they had been preparing and the teams they were making. So each baby had a team of 3 nurses. So there was
Okay.
12 nurses assigned to just the babies, as well as additional OB, additional doctors, additional nurses, additional everyone. I think there was 21 people in the operating room. Yeah, so it was 21, not including me, my husband, and the babies. So
Right.
that was 6 more. There was 27 or 28 of us. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So busy room, fun room. As soon as I walked in, everyone was like, "Oh, you're Tara. Oh, you're the quad mom. Oh, we've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so excited." And so some of the team had been there or at least had heard of the previous quads that had been born 8 years ago at that
Right.
same hospital. So some of them had heard of or seen this, and some of them had never and may never again. So
Yeah.
it was a really cool experience to be part of. Everyone was so happy and excited for us to get there. And the second we walked in, we were so taken care of. I wasn't at all worried for a minute. I knew that we were in good hands, and it was a party. It was fun. It was a celebration.
That's very cool.
Mhm.
You don't have to share this, but any complications? Did you have extra blood loss? Was there
I
any
did
concerns?
not. Everything went well, my surgery wise. I was rolled into recovery, smiling, happy, laughing like the happiest. And then the shakes came. And
Yeah.
then
Oh.
about an hour into it, I was like, okay, let's get me up to the NICU. And then they're like, okay, one more minute or one more little assessment. And then the shakes and the puking and the like, oh, I
Mhm.
was violently ill for about
Yeah.
2 hours after that. And they were like, you are not ready to meet your babies. Took me a
Yeah.
while to get up to see them. It took me about 4.5 hours till I could actually finally see my babies. Was it in terms of that. I did have extremely low iron throughout my pregnancy, and I did get several iron infusions throughout my
That's right.
pregnancy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I did require a couple more afterwards, but that was it.
Now, as you know, when the babies are little and you're sleep deprived, what are
Mhm.
some things that you tell yourself when things are hard?
Mm, yes. So I remind myself that the sun will always rise. And there's something about a sunrise and the way that like you can have the hardest night. I don't know if this was maybe I'm speaking for myself here, but I would have like sometimes the hardest nights. And then I would be like, I have no idea how I'm going to get through tomorrow. And I would start just like spiraling already. I'd be like, I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. I'm going to be so exhausted. How am I going to do this? How am I going to handle my 2 year old? How am I going to get through the day? And I would just already like kind of give up on my day before it even started. And then there's something about a sunrise and the sun coming up and that first cup of coffee, if you drink coffee, and the sun somehow would just like change me. And I'd be like, oh, I'm fine. I'm actually not that, it's not that bad. And everything isn't actually crumbling and everything's
Uh-huh.
okay. And I don't know what it was, but a new day. I actually have something in my classroom, and before I went on mat leave, even it said every day is a fresh start. And it's just so true. Like every
Yeah.
single day is new. Whatever happened that day, that night before, it's in the past. You still
Exactly.
have the ability to have a
Mhm.
beautiful day in front of you and maybe some hiccups and maybe a bad night ahead, but still you can have a fresh start every single morning. And I think there's beauty in that and a good reminder that you can get through anything. And I've always reminded myself that I've always lived through my worst days, and
Mm.
it's too easy to spiral when you get too far ahead or too far behind. Yeah.
Yes.
Staying
Yes.
present is okay. You're okay in that moment. You're
Yeah.
okay. Your baby's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending this time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
you are a gift and
Thank you.
keep spreading that light. We've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
My kids are a gift. This is a miracle. This is a blessing. They are, oh, all children, miracles, blessings. Like we are so lucky.
Yeah.
We're so lucky. Thank you so much for having me. This was really wonderful. I appreciate all of the work you do. And if I could, yeah, just leave it with just a thank you for just healthcare team and just nurses, doctors, anyone in the world of healthcare. You are amazing. And I had incredible experiences. You brought my babies into this world, and I just can't thank you enough for bringing them here safely. So thank you.
Uh,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
If you have any questions about what you heard today, please reach out. Sarah and I would love to hear from you. Email us at birthslater@yahoo.com. That's birthslater@yahoo.com. We are here to support you every step of the way. And now for the legal language. This podcast is solely for educational and entertainment purposes. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional advice from qualified individuals involved in your prenatal, labor, and postnatal care. Every pregnancy and birth is different, So always talk to your healthcare provider about what's right for you.